Okay, the question that we are going to address here is basically how do you put a principles and elements of design chart in your PowerPoint presentation. It may seem a little intimidating, especially if you're not as fluent with PowerPoint, but it's super easy and there are lots of different ways you can do it. Let's start a new PowerPoint presentation. Let's pretend like this is one of your assignments you're turning it in. You're turning in for one of the modules in the course. Watch. And I'm just going to choose, I'll start from scratch, a blank presentation, okay? And let's say that this is the Module 7 assignment, okay? And the assignment is called Self-Portrait, okay? Portrait, is that right? No, got my R. Okay, so essentially what I'm gonna do is, let's insert a few slides. I'm gonna pretend like, you know, hey, I did some art here, I did a self-portrait. Let's just grab something from online of a, let's go, let's take Picasso's self-portrait. Okay, let's just grab any one of them, doesn't matter. This is just an example. But in this case, you would say that, you know, this would simulate your art. Say this is your artwork that you're doing. You have 3 pictures here, that's fine, 3 pictures. In this case, you don't have to do 3 pictures for the assignment, but I'm just grabbing the first thing I can see. So what I did is I saved that picture of Picasso to my desktop, right? Once again, we're gonna pretend like this is your artwork. And I'm going to drag and drop this into a slide, okay? And on this slide, you never leave a slide blank or a slide with just art. You always want to discuss. Okay, I'm gonna pretend like this is me. So I'm gonna say self-portrait, and then I'm going to put a text box. Let's put at the bottom here. I'm gonna have a little text box for each one because I want to discuss how I use the principles and elements of design just a little bit in the slides for all the art that I have. So that's one of the things you want to do, okay? This charcoal drawing, I portray myself in the art style called realism. Okay. All right. Okay. And typically I would talk about, you know, things like this image looks the most like I really do. All right. I'm going to make that small so we can see it all on the page there. I'm going to change the size to say 14. Bang, and I got it right here. Got a little typo there. Okay, now I'm going to make another text box by clicking on the text box icon, and I'm going to say, this is a cubist version of me, period. Notice the angles, oops, flat shapes and facets that are synonymous with the cubist style, okay? So I'm pointing out how these principles and elements of design are used. I'm not really telling you why I chose this style. This is just arbitrarily what I'm doing for this create. So this last one, text box. All right. Let's say here, okay, This is, and can anybody tell me what style this is? What kind of expressionism? No. Yes, abstract expressionist version of my self-portrait. Though I don't look like this at all, it does depict how I feel on the inside. Okay? Once again, I'm going to make that small enough. All right, so in this case, not only did I didn't really so much talk about specifically how this is abstract expressionism, other than the fact that, I tell you it's abstract expressionist, and you can see very much does not look like a real person. I kind of mentioned that, but I tell you why I did the work like this. It shows you how I feel on the inside. So this is the kind of stuff you want to put in your slides. I can have another slide here that goes into more detail as into why I made these 3 different versions, or more about how I use the principles and elements of design in the 3 versions in a way consistent with, realism, cubism, and abstract expressionism. So we could talk about all that in the other slides, and maybe I do something like, I'm gonna just select the picture, go down here, paste it. I copied it and pasted it. You can say, well, okay, this first one I'm just gonna talk about, I'm gonna double click on it because I'm just going to crop it because I just wanna talk about the realist version of it. I'm gonna crop, I can either crop it like that, or I can press the crop button up here after I double click on it and just crop out the ones to the left and the right, click in the empty space to get rid of everything else. Now I have the realist version of me. Okay, and I can talk about, where you going? I can talk about why I did this and talk about how I used the charcoal, utensil, and all the different elements that I use in this for realism. All right. Of course, I could do the same things for the cubist version of me. The cubist version of me. Where that came from? Cubist version of me. And then finally, I'll paste again because I copied the whole thing. Double click on it, go up to the crop button, click on that, and crop out what I don't want. Click in the white to get rid of the rest of the other 2 I don't want, and just drag this whole thing by the center to the middle. And this is what the abstract expressionist version of me. Okay, so I can talk about, the different principles and elements of design, of how I got this abstract expressionist version, and talk about the theme, the idea, what motivated me, what am I trying to say to my audience here. But at the end of all of that, I want to add my principles and elements of design chart, okay? So there are a couple of different ways you can do that. You can, one of the ways it may be quicker, it depends. If I'm already in PowerPoint, one of the things that I could do is I can make a chart directly in PowerPoint, right? Or I can make my principles and elements design chart. It's gonna take more than 1 page. You're gonna see why in a second, but I'm gonna click on this insert table. That's actually a table, not a chart. Click on the insert table button, and it's gonna ask me how many columns. In this particular case, I want 2. How many rows? There are 7 principles and 7 elements. I'm not gonna try to fit all 14 in one table. I'm just do 7 on one and 7 on the other. Click insert, bang. Actually, maybe I should have done 8 because I'm gonna type up here element of design on this side. And then I'm gonna go, what, points develop into lines, which develop into shapes, which develop into forms. We also have color, and we also have tone, and we also have texture, right? Those are my 7 elements, right? Elements of design, okay? So here they are listed on this side of on this, I'm not gonna call it explanation, I'm gonna call it depiction. Because on this side of the principles and elements of design chart, or the elements of design chart, I wanna explain how did I use the element of point. I could pick and choose which ones I talk about. I could talk about a little bit of each of them. Either one is fine, but just make sure that you are very specific as far as which piece of art you're talking about. In this case, the expressionist, realist, or abstract expressionist, realist, or cubist versions of it. And make sure that when you talk about the principles and elements of design for that element point, make sure you use keywords that I associate with that element, right? Points are usually circles. They can be big or small, right? Lines, they can be organic, meaning curvy. They can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. They can also be described as geometric. Those are words that I use to describe line. My shapes can be organic shapes, like ovals or imperfect circles, like egg shapes. Shapes can be geometric, squares, triangles, things like that, the trapezoids that are very precisely created, just like you made it with a protractor or some geometric tools. So I'm gonna use the terms associated with each one of these elements I'm not just gonna throw the terms at the teacher in the depiction section. I'm gonna explain how I use these different elements in this case in my artwork using the keywords associated with each element, all right? So that's I'm gonna call it, even though this is just the elements of design chart, I'm gonna call it my principles and elements of design chart, okay? Now, something else I could do is instead of having to make another table, I can select the table, copy, go to a new slide, and paste it. Oops, I'm sorry, it didn't give me what I wanted. Can I copy the whole table? Let's see. Copy, paste. Okay, it gave me the letters, gave me the words, but not the table itself. I'm just gonna go ahead and just start with a new table. Remember, I had 2 columns, and I should have had 7 rows, or yeah, 7 rows. That should be really, I think 8. 8 is what I need. So these are my principles of design, okay? And so my principles of design, I have balance, harmony, unity, contrast. Can anybody tell me another principle? Balance, harmony, unity, contrast. What else? Value is an element. What was another one? Rhythm, very good. Movement, right? Say what now? Pattern, very good. This order may be a little different from the order of how it has in the normal charts that we have. But as you can see, I have all of them listed there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got them listed there. So on this part of the depiction, the second column, I'm going to talk about how I use the principle of how I use the principle of balance in my artwork. I can talk about all of them, or I can talk about just one of them. I can compare them. I could say, well, in this first one, you can see that for the most part, I have a symmetrical composition largely on the face from left to right. The left side of the face is a mirror image to the right side of the face, because that's how people are really made. That's a realistic looking face, and most, people, human people, have a very, their sides of their faces are very similar, right? Most of life is like that. Your left side looks like the mirror side of your right side. That addresses composition, okay? That addresses balance. On this one, you can see I have a lot less of a balanced composition here, right, in this cubist version. That's part of what makes this cubist. Okay, I don't have a nice mirrored left side, looks like the opposite of the right side. Some of that also has to do with the perspective. He's not facing the camera directly. He's kind of at a 3/4 angle, as we call it. But the idea is, even if you look at the shapes that are on the left side of the picture with the right side of the picture, I don't have balance there. Notice that I'm using keywords that I associate with balance. Here, we have a type of balance between the background and the foreground, but we don't have as much, we don't have any symmetrical balance within the positive space. That means the subject here. That's one element one principle I forgot to put there. Within the positive space of the subject, I don't have any symmetrical balance there, right? But I do have a little space around the sides, which balances out this otherwise. I have negative space that's relatively void, which balances out all this busy pattern work I'm doing with the eyes in the positive space there. All right. So I would have that discussion. I could put it in the balance section. If I really like what I said, I may want to actually put it in, type it in the slide itself next to the picture, right? And then also have like kind of a summary of some of that down here, right? But the idea is I want to use keywords associated with each element as I talk about that element in the principles and elements of design chart. So that's one way that I can make a principles and elements of design chart. Let me select this and paste it down here, okay? Another way, I'm almost done. Another way I can do, just in case you don't want to do say you don't want to do a principles and elements of design chart in PowerPoint for some reason, you can also import a P&E chart or bring it in, a P&E chart that you created in another program. So I'm gonna find a P&E chart, right? Let's see. I was hoping I was gonna find one I did in Excel. Let's say you use the Excel spreadsheet, okay? I'm gonna launch Excel. Let's say you use an Excel spreadsheet to create your principles and elements of design chart. So you did it separately, and to be honest with you, all of these assignments request or tell you that you have to make your principles and elements of design sheet before you start doing your art. The reason for that is that they want to encourage you, they want to get you the habit of planning your art out before you actually just start drawing, coloring, or creating. They want you to decide on what you want to do ahead of time. So in this case, I'm going to put element and depiction, and I'm not going to do the whole principles and elements of design chart. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to do the elements, and I think you'll be able to extend this to the principles part and do the same thing for the principles. Color, tone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, shape, color, tone. I'm missing one. Form, color, tone, texture. All right. So you can see it's a very similar format, except for what I'm going to do is in Excel. How do I get this from Excel to PowerPoint? That's what the important part is. But of course, you're going to type in whatever, like I said before, use the keywords associated with each element to explain how you use that element in your original artwork. Okay? And then what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go File. I can go File, Save As, and then I can save it instead of the file format of an Excel workbook. Let's save it as a PDF, right? Let's save it as a PDF, okay? And then I'm going to just save this. I'm going to save this to my desktop. Bless you. And then you're going to see that I can bring PDFs into into PowerPoint, just like I did that JPEG. Where did I drop this? Is it still working? Yes, it's still processing. Not sure why it's taking this long, but I'm gonna stop it and try it again. Let's go File, Save As. Instead of Excel workbook, let's go to PDF. Okay, let me see what other options do I have down there. Let's go to PDF. All right. And now I'm gonna save it to my desktop. So it should output a PDF on my desktop. Plug in my battery. And so we're going to pretend like I don't want to wait any longer on this. So we're going to pretend like it went ahead and it saved my Excel spreadsheet out as a PDF, and it nicely saved it on my desktop. And I'm just going to go in and drag a different PDF to my PowerPoint presentation slide to just show you, okay, connection required. It is not connected to the web. I thought it was. I have to be online. It says I have to be online for that option and choose the best printing option. I am online. Let's try it one more time. Save as. PDF. Best for printing. Let's try that. And I'm gonna stay on the. I'm gonna stay on the desktop to save it. Click Save. Let's see if it works better. Okay, that was pretty fast. All right, so let's go to my PowerPoint. Let's go to my desktop. There's Book One. You see it's a PDF. All I have to do is drag and drop it to the slide. Bang, there it is. Now that's kind of small. That's kind of small, and that has a lot to do with the size of the type that I used and the size of the columns and the size of the columns and the rows that I use. But that's easily fixable. Of course, I'd have to, if I wanted to bring it in again, I would have to export it again, or I have to save it again as a PDF. But I can easily change the size by just changing the font size of this, so it's a bit bigger. All right, let's see if we can do something quicker. Okay, now let's try this again. I'm gonna save as, save it on my desktop again. Well, actually I'll call it Book 2. I'll call it just 2, desktop. Oh, let me do that right. Let's try that again. I don't know if I did that right. Save as, PDF, 2, best for printing, save. Okay, good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this table and go away with that. Let's go ahead and grab my other table. It's this one right here. That's the new one. Bang, like that. So that looks a little better. All right, of course I got a lot of empty space down there, but I can do something like crop it. right? And position it. And of course, you don't want the different font sizes like this. You want everything to be the same font. One disadvantage of this is that it doesn't have the grid lines like I had in the chart that I did in Principles and Elements of Design. It also doesn't have the grid lines like you have in Excel. But there are ways, but I can go into them now, but there are ways where you can output this as a PDF and keep those grid lines. So I have the nice grid lines, okay? But you know, the long and short of it is, yes, you can use the table in PowerPoint, or you can use Excel to create a P&E chart and bring it into Blackboard, all right?